Hi, this is Yuma Soto, and I'm going to talk about Venus of Willendorf. The reason why I chose to talk about this topic is because it's kind of an interesting figurine and what it meant, and who worshipped this goddess of Venus of Willendorf. Because there are so many sizes, types, and uses for this. Well, there's only two uses for, Venus of Willendorf. The Paleolithic women, not just the Paleolithic women, the Paleolithic people used to worship this little figurine for many different reasons. And I believe that it's really interesting, and I believe that we should teach everybody, about this figurine. And in just a little while, we are going to talk about what it looks like. Some of the basic features, it looks like a woman. It looks like like a bit of a big woman, because you can see, the curves of it and how beautiful she is. You can also see her, like the size of her breasts, and that's how we know that she is a woman, because of her breast. We could see also the genitalia that is being exposed, as well as her head, and it kind of looks like that she's looking down at herself, and that's how you can actually see how the figurine could have been made. Another reason how we can see that Venus is looking down at herself is because when we look down at herself, images seem to be closer than what they actually are. And this is just a kind of like a theory almost, because we do not actually know if it's sure, but there's some kind of evidence that displays it. One of the uses for this figurine was fertility, because women at this time were expected to have children, well, as many children as they could, so their generation can go on. The second reason that this figurine was used was for growing crops, and they would do this by burying a little figurine under and just waiting for the crops to prosper, and it would obviously, I guess, sometimes work because of the figurine. What does she look like? Well, she is supposedly nude, but the article from Leroy Dermont explained that these figurines are depicted faceless and obese. The reason why they are depicted like they are is because, women who were thicker, it gave them that birthing mother look, because it would mean that she's really fertile. And by being fertile, that means she can have as many kids as she wants, or as she is expected to have by the Paleolithic area, or not just the Paleolithic area, but where people existed, where humanity was at the time. The same article by Leroy also explains that of who could have created this Venus of Willendorf figurine. It was said to be created by women, and there is evidence, as I stated before, that suggests this. The Venus of Willendorf figurine was supposedly found in a crop garden place, because, as stated before, the significance of the worship of this goddess was for crop growth. Another reason why I picked this topic is because I took a history class that talked about the Venus of Willendorf, and the professor who taught it has a necklace of this Venus of Willendorf figurine. How women lived. Women around that time had expectations to live up to. According to the Towards Decolonizing Gender article, everyone around the Paleolithic time knew somewhat of how women's bodies worked. They kind of knew that, when a woman that menstruation was a thing, because, women menstruate. And then when they're not menstruating, that's when they become more fertile. The article explains that Paleolithic women were seen as childbearers as they had a sense of what puberty is. If it were not for these kinds of ideas, our perception of humanity might have been different. This article also described what it took for women to have babies, like the birds and the bees, or the flowers and the bees. I don't know. Yeah, that's how it goes. In the article of Muriel Hilson, it explains that the Venus figurine's head what could it have meant? The head looks like a bull's head that represents the female reproductive system, as you can see here. The horns represent the fallopian tubes, and like the forehead represents the uterus. And you can label the rest. In the article by Rice, they ask the question of whether the figurine symbolizes womanhood or motherhood. Well, their answer that they discovered was that the Venuses represent a wide span of ages, because the more Venus figurines are found, the more is put into question of what the structure it represents. And I personally believe that it didn't really quite label any age structure. As long as the woman could have children, that's what the purpose of the figurines were. There is just a lot of explanation to know, the beauty, the significance of the figurine was. It's actually, there's a whole lot of art that is being created today because of the result of this figurine of Venus of Willendorf. There are many different kinds of this figurine found around the world, and it just shows that there was, this, I guess, admiration of goddesses, women, the little power of women had at this time, Even the little women around that area were just seen as, child bearers and gatherers. They still believed in a goddess, in a woman, to grant them, the life of birthing human, and increasing, the population, and adding more generations upon generations that, came right now, and how we are at this time, with this virus going on. It just, I don't know, it gives me a little hope, I read an article by Sofer, and they explained that the figurines were clothed. The details on the figurines suggest that they had clothing, that some of them had either they had dresses on, because you can see some of them that they had the neckline, but this can also represent that they might have been wearing jewelry as well. And the engravings kind of explain that they might have been wearing either a weave, maybe the engravings on the head could be that it was hair. But then there is also the possibility that the figurines were wearing string clothing that were held by belts. Here is my citation, and thank you for listening to this presentation. And if you have any questions, you can contact me.